Sunday Dinners with La Familia is dedicated to the Italian-American Sunday dinner tradition of bringing families together around food. While some dishes in the book have authentic Italian roots, most are proudly Italian-American, a distinctly unique cuisine that Rossella believes deserves as much praise and attention. And our moderator today is Mark Rotella. Mark is the director of the Joseph and Elder Coccia Institute for the Italian Experience in America and teaches the creative writing program at Montclair State University. In addition, Mark also serves as thesis advisor in the MFA program at Columbia University. Mark's first book, Stolen Figs and Other Adventures in Calabria, recounts his travels to Calabria, the region in southern Italy from which his grandparents immigrated. His second book, Amore, the story of Italian-American song, tells of the era in American popular music during the mid-20th century, dominated by Italian-American singers such as Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, Dean Martin, and Tony Bennett. He also wrote the introduction for the 2006 reissue of Carlo Levy's classic 1945 memoir, Christ Stopped at Eboli. And I will leave it to Mark and Rossella, and welcome, and I'll let you introduce our special
Great.
guest.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Guys,
all.
first of all, do I need this microphone? Because I'm very loud. I don't know. Does it,
Good. I don't know. I think, are
we
you okay
really
if we don't
need
do the...
It's
Because
totally up
we
to
both
you.
are loud. I mean, I know you were. I am.
I'm
All right.
louder
Okay,
than you.
good. All right. Let me
There you
put it
go.
over here.
We
All right,
don't need
great.
the
All right,
microphone.
okay. So,
We're just talking.
I'm going to just turn this off. Sorry. I know what I'm going to do. Wait, I'm going to... All right. Thank you so much. So, first of all, I have to say, you know, there is, and I say this every time, there is nothing like a neighborhood bookstore. And this is why gatherings like this are able to happen because of local bookstores, and I am always indebted and fully happy that we have Watchung Booksellers here. So a big shout out to Catherine. This is the perfect meeting place to talk about books and food. And so anyway, so thank you all for coming. And Rossella, it's really nice to meet you. We just met.
It's so great to
anyway,
be
and I know
here.
a lot of you know her already. So we're just gonna jump right in. Okay.
Let's go.
Your third cookbook. You had Italian holidays. You had how is this one with Sunday dinners differ for the others, and what made you decide to do this?
So my first two books were very special in the sense that they contained recipes and stories from 30 different Italian grandmothers. That's what I did ever since 2009. I just became very passionate about documenting Italian grandmothers' stories and recipes. In the very beginning, I would take recipes written in like Italian hieroglyphics, you know, measured in espresso cups, you know, their own little phonetic spelling of things written on a Macy's receipts, and I would, you know, try and turn it into something that you could replicate. I always tell people I can't get them 100% because no one will.
Right.
But I'm gonna get it really close. And then I started my YouTube series that people know and love. And when I was approached to write a book, first of all, most people never thought that I would even go to college. So for me to have written 3 books at this point is probably the thing that I'm most proud of in my entire life.
Yeah.
But I always tell the story that my first book deal came about the way like a model gets discovered at McDonald's. And that's the only way I will ever be able to use that analogy in my life, because I was my editor Janine Dillon from Race Point Publishing reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, and she's like, "Hey, I really like your show. I thought you already wrote a book, but since you didn't, you want to write one?" Like, this does not happen to people. The process to becoming a published author, the road to becoming a published author is very arduous.
Right.
It's not easy. You have to write a book proposal. You have to get an agent to read that proposal, and then the agent has to send it. They're not going to take submissions from just you sending it to them. I got very, very lucky, and I thank that woman, you know, for giving me my start. But we put the first Cooking with Nonna cookbook together in 2016. It came out. It did really well considering I'm not like a real housewife and not on television and stuff, and you know, people bought my book, and thank you. We did Cooking with Nonna holidays, the same way we did Sunday dinners, the same way we did the first book, because I really wanted something to pay homage to all the wonderful ways Italians and Italian Americans celebrate holidays. And then when we were doing Sunday dinners, I was just so passionate about an Italian American Sunday dinner, the ceremony of an Italian American Sunday dinner, and I wanted there to be somewhere where I could put all the Americanized recipes, you know, the recipes that came here Italian, and over the years and different influences, they are what they are. You know, everybody loves a good parm.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
And I wanted to kind of tell a story about Italian American cuisine as one of evolution and not blasphemy, which is, you know, I get a lot of heat on the Facebook. All the Italians come yell at me. They think they're professors. They're like, that doesn't exist here. And it's like, no, it doesn't.
Well, let's talk. This is something that I do want to talk about. Is, you know, there is that stereotype of like, is this Italian American? That's not Italian. When, well, what is, you know? I mean, so we have to. For those of us who are Italian Americans, we get our recipes from our Nonna. By the way, I have to introduce Nonna. So we're going to be mentioning you quite a bit. So, you know, we get them from our Nonna, from Nonna, another Nonna here. How do you feel about like what is Italian American, and does it matter? I mean, and like you just said that there's that debate, like, wait, that's not Italian, but yeah, it is.
You know what's so funny to me is that we are the only people that do this. You know, in China, you know, if they were allowed to use Facebook, they wouldn't go on and bother somebody for making General Tso chicken and saying this doesn't exist here. We are the only people that do this, that get upset over like a chicken cutlet with sauce and mozzarella on top.
Right.
Like that's something that would only upset an Italian, and it confuses me because, you know, every immigrant culture is going to change the food.
Right.
You know, there's a new culinary landscape. You come to a new country, you have different resources, different circumstances. You know, like I always tell the story of like this, you know, this fictional character, Guido in Sicily, was, you know, parming all the eggplant because that's what was cheap and easy. And then he comes to America in like the 40s or the 50s, and he gets a cool factory job, and he's got a lot more money now. Right. And he can buy cool stuff like chicken and mozzarella all the time, and he does. And he's like, "This is like, why wouldn't you do stuff with that? We're not meant to stay the same forever." Yeah. So it's like a lot of the recipes in the book are recipes that my Nonna kind of developed because she worked in a factory, and she worked at the Howard Clothing Factory in South Brooklyn for 27 years. And, you know, all of a sudden, she wasn't only with people from her village anymore. She was with Sicilians and Neapolitans. And, you know, for the holidays, the women would bring cookies and cakes and taste this. And it's like, oh, I'm going to do it like that. Oh, you do it like this? I'm going to do it like that too now. Right. And that's how new things are born, because we're sharing our cultures. You know, Italy is huge. And with all the regions and towns, you know, we didn't know about each other until we came to America and all met each other. Right. And that's what I love about Italian American food. It reflects the abbondanza of this country, and it's a little bit of everywhere in Italy in one dish. How could you not love it?
Absolutely. I think that was so well said. That's exactly right on point. But I also notice even here there's a difference within the, you know, you just mentioned the different Italian American communities here. Like, for instance, I'm looking at your recipe for pasta fazool, which I made, pasta fazool, which I made for my good friends Friday night. Every Friday night, my wife and I host, or we swap up with another couple. We used to cook dinner for our families every Friday night, and now it's just the four of us because the kids are all doing their thing. And last night, Friday, I cooked a pasta fazool from my grandmother's recipe, and it was white beans, and she ate it, and she goes, this isn't really pasta fazool. I said, what do you mean? She goes, no, pasta fazool, she's from the Molise. She said, pasta fazool is a little thicker, and it's like, and it doesn't have rosemary. I was like, wait a minute. So we're having this it's fun.
You're gonna go to Pasta Fazool jail now.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
But I noticed yours has rosemary.
Yeah, it
Which is
has.
great, which mine does too, which I love, which is very southern.
It has whatever I feel like putting in it, you know,
Yeah.
that day.
Yep.
And that's okay. Like, we can have different pasta fazool recipes.
Yep.
It's gonna be fine. Who likes it soupy? Who likes it thick?
Right.
You know, there's a saying in Italian that says "I gusti non si discutono," that you do not argue with taste. And that's how you know, my cook. I'm not a purist. I like to have fun. I like to change things. You can always go back to the original recipe for something. But you know, every single family is gonna make something different. There's no one way to make anything, especially in Italian American cuisine, especially in Southern Italian American cuisine. In the North, they're a little more precise. They don't feel like they don't have a lot of fun, so they don't change things. You know, we're fun. We're funner people. We are. I mean, come on.
True. Yeah.
But it's like, this is why our community is not, you know, as united as I wish it was, because how do you unite a people that can't agree on a meatball recipe?
Exactly. I'm with you.
How does it happen? We can't agree how to make pasta fazool. That's why we're not. That's why we don't control like the
Right.
media or finances
Yeah.
or anything.
It kind of reminds me of Scorsese telling a story of bringing home his first girlfriend who is Irish. And they thought his mom was going to be upset. She brings over, oh, this is a nice Irish girl. I like her. It's like, great. Next time she brings home, it's like, oh, this one's Polish, a nice Polish. And she's, oh, this is a nice Polish girl. This is great. And then he says, wow, this next one's going to be easy. I'm bringing home a Sicilian. Brings her home, and she's like, why do you bring Sicilian home? Are you kidding? Why would you do that? So it's like all that infighting, and not just like it's just a certain sense of pride of the way you do things in your own region, and this is what we have as Italians. We're very regional people, and
Yes.
you're right. We argue about we cannot agree on any one ingredient, one taste. So I just want to go back a little bit, and you know, I think your followers and your fans will know this, but just to talk about it in one piece, what made you in the first place decide to do the video, decide to do it? Like what how did this come about and why?
Well, I was supposed to be an Italian teacher. That's what I went to school for. I have a degree in Italian literature and secondary education. And I was going to St. John's University. I was about, I think I was a sophomore in college at this time. And I was living with Nonna. Like, we were sharing a bedroom because nice Italian girls don't dorm. And if they do, Vito wasn't gonna pay for it. So I got to share a bedroom with Nonna for 4 straight years in the basement apartment, and let me tell you, that was we don't like to lock doors in the house. We don't like boundaries. You know, I'd be in the shower washing my hair. For some things it was great. I got, you know, catered food every single day. But she would, you know, I'd be washing my hair. She'd open the curtain and be like, "What do you want to eat later?" And I'm like, "Can we have one conversation when I'm not naked? Just one." You know, because we don't like to. We share. She had 7 siblings. You know, nobody was knocking on the door if they had to use the bathroom. And in the middle of this experience, you know, my father comes over for dinner one night, and he says, "You know, what do you really want to do with your life? Because you're gonna be a terrible teacher." I would just tell you.
Oh no!
I don't know if you know this.
By the way, this is her father right here. This is me.
I don't know if you know this, but, you know, we all know. So maybe you want to pick something else. I don't know. It's like, you know, so glad to be spending money on this degree, but it's I already know how this is gonna go. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Well, all right, fine, point." But if I had to pick, I just like laughed about it because my mother's an actress. I didn't bring her here because then, you know, we'd be here until nighttime. She'd grab the mic and do show tunes. Yeah. And then it's your problem.
Okay, no, right.
Yeah. And then, but I've been kind of adjacent to the entertainment industry since I was a young kid, and I just blurted out, I said, I'm gonna have a cooking show one day. That's the greatest job in the world. He laughed about it. He was like, oh, it should be about Nonnas. It should be about Nonna's recipes. You have to understand, this is 2009. Nobody was doing this. If there were people on cooking shows, they were not me, okay? They were restaurant chefs. They were, you know, trained chefs at the very least. They didn't look like me. They didn't talk like me. And it was like, where are you going? So even if you were on YouTube, you know, who was doing YouTube at that time? It was kind of the dawn of the content creator era. You know, today I'm older than all the apps. I was around before Instagram and everything. So this is kind of like, well, how would we do this? Because he was like, yeah, let's do a show called Cooking with Nonna. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. A week later, he buys the web domain cookingwithnonna.com. A week after that, he built, like, if you see the early videos, it's like this stovetop with a counter. He built that, and it had wheels, and we would wheel it in and out of our kitchen. And so he's like, I built a set. And I'm like, okay, great. We got a website. We got a set. I guess we should try to do a show. And we really didn't know what to do. You couldn't film the show with your phone back then the way you can now. We actually hired a production company.
For the first one?
Yeah, they were the audio-visual team of Seton Hall University.
Great.
Yeah, but we oh, you went there?
My alma mater.
Very nice, yeah. They were very expensive. It was just a really cool trial and error period, because back then, you know, I want to say Cooking with Nonna was like this overnight runaway success. It was not. There were a lot of years where I felt like nobody was really paying attention to it. Nobody was taking it really seriously. I was this little girl, like essentially cooking with these older ladies and stuff, and they would kind of just head tilt and go, "Oh, that's a cute idea," but you know, that's something I want to say to anybody that's really working hard at something that you don't think anyone else sees you, you know, and sometimes it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. And if you have a dream the way I did, you know, you better be willing to like eat, sleep, breathe, and, you know, die for that dream, because it might take a minute before anything feels like it's happening.
Right. Do you prep, like, how many, do you do a trial run before recording? Is that, like, how did that start? Did you just like, all right, just set up the camera and we're just gonna wing it?
No, actually, we used to do things so differently. It's so crazy, like, that today, like, everything is a 1-minute TikTok video.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
And it's condensed and you can speed it up. And I learned how to shoot and edit my own stuff now, which is cool, because I feel like I evolved as a cook, as a creator, as just like an army of one, sort of, because you have to be that way in this industry. But we used to actually not only do a test run, we just took it so seriously. We used to shoot each recipe twice.
Right.
And they used to edit the best shots of it, which was not efficient, which was a total waste. But, you know, it made the days really long with the Nonna, and a lot of times their families would come over and eat the food. There was a lot of food and eat the food with us, and they were wonderful experiences. You know, I work very differently now, and then, you know, doing the recipe testing for the books is also a whole different process, because when I did the first 2 books and there were 30 different ladies, I actually would recipe test one round with them. So I would go to their house and I would cook all the recipes with them, and this is where I would see, you know, a lot of them didn't write the recipes down. They didn't measure anything. So I'm like looking at them. I'm like, how big is her hand? That's about a 1/4 cup, you know, and I'm watching the way they do it. But that was so important in my writing process, because it's like they all have their like little secret tools, and you know, and I would write about what their kitchens looked like, and their, like, you know, family photos all over them. So it was really important for me to see their environment. and spend that time with them. And then I would do the interview part where I would tape record them and write all the prose, their life story. And then after all the recipe testing and interviews were done, I would take the recipes home. And my first 2 books, you were talking about a small publisher, very small advance. There's no money for recipe testing.
Right.
So I tested 140 recipes in 30 days for the first book. And I mean, let me tell you, I made friends with that Carlo Rossi gallon like you. That was, that made me a way better cook than anything. That was better than going to culinary school, honestly, because
absolutely,
it taught me so much. And then I took the way I would write the life stories, which is really difficult to condense a person's entire life into 1 page and make it beautiful and something that they're proud of and something that they want to read, to their grandchildren. I mean, I played those recordings over and over. I sat and I wrote everything for the first book at a Panera on 86th Street in Bay Ridge that is no longer there, and I had to sit in the same booth and listen to, I feel like I'm haunted by all these ladies' life stories. I would eat the same thing every single time, and that's where the whole thing came together. Today, the process is a little bit different. I was lucky enough for Sunday Dinners to work with a very talented recipe tester. There were people that test recipes. You got to pay them $200 a recipe, and they'll test your recipe. Did you know this? I didn't know this. I paid a woman $800 a day to make dollops. That's all she does is dollops. She's the dollop lady. Very nice girl. Very nice girl. Very expensive dollops. Very nice person. But it was good because you always want to make sure that the recipes work.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of any cookbook.
Absolutely.
My first publisher said, "Don't worry, most of the people aren't going to make the food." And I was like, "What? What are you talking? Not my people. My people are going to make the food, and if there's something wrong, they're going to tell me." And so I wanted to make sure everything worked. And in this book, the story of Cooking with Nonna Sunday Dinners came about very serendipitously because, of course, I decided to write a Sunday dinner cookbook in the middle of a pandemic where nobody could be together, right? The proposal was written well before, 2020. And by the time it got picked up by a publisher, we were in lockdown. And it became very clear as soon as I had to start writing it that I was not going to be able to visit 30 different older ladies. I really wanted to go all over the country this time and go to Boston and St. Louis and visit these Italian enclaves and meet women from there because it's about, Italian food in America. And that was not going to happen. And I had to pivot. So I said to myself, actually, I called up Adriana Trajani because who knows her? She wrote the foreword for the book.
Oh, yeah.
So she's my fairy godmother, and when I don't know what to do, I call her. And she said, "Why don't you write this one about your Nonna?" And I'm so glad that it worked out that way because, the irony is that in a time where we couldn't be together, I wrote a book about togetherness, about the ceremony of Sunday dinner, and now that it's over, I feel like this is the Bible to have your own Sunday dinner. I think we all appreciate that togetherness so much more now. And I always tell people, even if you're not Italian, throw a Sunday dinner. Even if you don't have a big, loud Italian family. I mean, I'll give you mine. But you got friends, invite your friends. And these are all the recipes to do that. And also, I wanted to make sure that I finally got my family story down. Because, I love spending time with all different ladies and hearing their stories. And when you do what I do, you really start to feel like we're all made from the same dough. And even though we have different details, it's really the same story, of immigration and then assimilation. And, given what's happened to my Nonna very recently, how she was, very ill, I'm so glad that a year ago, when I sat down to write Cooking with Nonna Sunday Dinners and to ask her all those questions, she had the answers. And, you know, today, thank God for where she is, but I'm not sure that she has the same answers that she did a year ago. So if you have anyone in your family, find the oldest person in your family and call them up and go for coffee and ask them everything that you've ever wanted to know about your story, about your family story. Because one day they're not going to have the answers for you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. How did you, I just have a couple questions. I just want to see, because I know we're going to open it up to our audience here. But well, two things. Oh, yeah, really three. How did you decide which recipes were going to go in here?
Ooh, okay. So the way you decide for these kinds of books, like I said, like I tested all the recipes myself. They would give me the recipes. Yeah. I would do. So in the first two books, those get filtered out by basically what works and what doesn't work. Because I had a baba recipe in the holiday book. My mother's friend Rosetta gives it to me. She was in the book, and all of a sudden I look in the oven, they're exploding like Mount Vesuvius. And I was like, well, that's gotta go. That I can't make work. There are certain recipes that the Nonna give me that I swear don't work. And either they left something, no, not that they leave something out. They don't do that with me. They're always very honest with me. But sometimes there's Nonna magic and things are inexplicable. There was a 92-year-old lady who gave me this chiffon cake recipe. And she goes, I'm not giving nobody this recipe. I'm going to give it to you. And I felt very special. And I was there with her. I watched her do it. I watched her. She's like, you got to beat the yolks for 10 minutes and the whites for 10 minutes. She had a hand mixer with a Ferrari motor in it. It was the strongest thing I've ever felt. And I watched her do it. She would flip it over onto this vintage Coca-Cola bottle from the 60s, put it right in the corner of her basement in Queens to let it settle, and it stayed like that. I made this cake 10 times. It fell every single time. And I did exactly what she did, and she didn't get one over on me. And there are certain things that only the Nonna can make. That cake only comes out good in her basement in Queens, and that's it. So I want to first and foremost choose things that I feel like everybody can execute. I think that's the most important thing for me. And then when you're thinking about how to structure a cookbook, you know, especially an Italian cookbook, do we have a good lasagna? Do we have a good pasta al forno? Do we have good staples?
Right.
Are there enough cookies? I don't think cookbooks have enough cookies. That's why I do entire cookie chapters in all of my books.
Yes, you did. That's right.
In this one, I did a cocktails chapter because
which I love, which is great. And the Negroni is all of a sudden really big. Everyone wants a cocktail.
Sunday dinner with Italian families, you need a cocktail. So I wanted to make sure everybody had there was something for everyone, and there's something for all skill levels. Because I could do a book full of only, handmade, the beautiful handcrafted pastas, but then I feel like that's alienating. And I also try to not think too much about making the dishes super complex. If there's anything that I found, my food is not fancy. I don't do the fancy, cool Italian food. Sometimes you just want pasta patata,
right.
Pasta and peas. And it's not about the recipes, the complexity of the recipes. It's that you see the pasta and peas on a page and you're immediately transported to your grandmother making it for you. In doing what I do, I've learned that, a plate of, a bowl of pastina. See, look. Will get you going way more than a crazy timbalo thing, the thing from Big Night, that doesn't mean anything to you. What means something to you? That's what's so beautiful and magical about Italian food, is that it means so much to us.
Absolutely. Moving quickly, 7 fishes. I know, and so would we go to your previous cookbook for the 7 fishes?
Yeah. You got that one? You got that one right.
All right,
here.
good. All right, good. All right. Do you have the 2 of the 7 fishes that you would recommend that is, say, easy to prepare, and to serve for a gathering of maybe 12.
A gathering. Well, in this book, we do have baked clams. Fantastic
Right.
baked
Okay,
clams.
good.
My uncle was a waiter at Gargiulo's in Coney Island.
I
and
love
stole the
Gargiulo's.
recipe. Yeah, it's basically the Gargiulo's recipe.
Okay,
We
good.
stole it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that recipe.
You got
and
the stuffed calamari in there.
we have stuffed calamari. We have the spaghetti Frank Sinatra, which is fantastic. That my uncle, the waiter, also
Right.
swears that this was Frank Sinatra's favorite dish. It's a red sauce seafood pasta with olives. Was it his favorite dish? I don't know. Some people say that. Some people also say he was faithful to his wife. People say a lot of things. But it's good, and it's perfect for Christmas Eve. It's a
Right.
delicious seafood pasta. So we got stuff in there.
And do
There's
you do
stuff.
the traditional 7 fishes?
So in the Mola di Bari tradition is not 7 fishes on Christmas Eve.
Right.
We make something called panzerotti
Mhm.
that are actually in, I think it's in the first 2 books.
Yeah.
And we have mini panzerotti in this book, a smaller version for, if you're gonna just have them on the side of something. But we do like a fried calzone on Christmas Eve
Right.
and New Year's Eve.
And what's in the calzone?
So you usually make 2 fillings. My family only does 2 fillings. Then, my ex-husband's family, they would do like ricotta and cinnamon and stuff. It was weird. I had to go. So like we do like mozzarella and capers and tomatoes.
Yeah.
And then we do another filling with scallions and tomatoes and olives and anchovies sometimes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And that I don't know why. I still can't figure out why my little fishing village does that for Christmas and New Year's Eve. Although the 7 fishes tradition, everyone's gonna because we have to fight about stuff that doesn't matter. So we have to fight about why it's 7, if it's really 7. But the entire super fishy Christmas Eve is more of a Neapolitan
Right.
rooted
Right.
tradition.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. I love it.
I'm sure we have some Neapolitans.
Love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They're fun.
So, just in closing, with all of this, what is it that you are hoping to communicate or to have live beyond, if that's it, with your show, with your books? What is it that is the whole elevating reason for this?
So I think I'm just passionate about the way we once did things, because I was raised in the golden age of Italian America in Brooklyn. My neighborhood is not what it once was.
Right.
And I just want to keep that conversation going, because I really feel like as long as we keep talking about things, they never really die. And that's what's so special about apps like TikTok and Instagram now, is
Yeah.
that there's so many people sharing
Yeah.
their traditions that we all find this commonality now. There was I remember feeling when I was starting out that there weren't that many people like me, and there weren't that many people who thought it was cool to hang out with their grandmother or make their nonna's food. And I was they call me like the OG of like Nonna creators, which is cool, because I'm not the only one, but I was the first one. And now to see that there are so many people cooking with their Nonna on social media, that's wonderful. That's what I wanted to do. From the get-go. And it's fun thinking that maybe something you did or cooked inspired somebody. Or we have this term called influencing now, like everyone's an influencer. And I don't know that I love that term, but I love to think that I inspired, that I not influenced, that I inspired people to go down to their basement and start writing down their Nonna's recipes and keeping them, because if you don't know where you came from, you'll never know who you are.
All right. I think that's a wonderful way to close our discussion. Now I want to open it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You got a
This is great.
question?
I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
You're right about the disagreement amongst the Italians, and it's gravy, not sauce.
Oh God,
But-
every
But-
time.
but no,
I know.
Every
wait.
it's like, do they get planted in the audience?
no, but actually, my question is, when you put this book together,
Yes.
how did you differentiate? To me, gravy is red and sauce is brown. That's how I looked at it.
You mean gravy is brown and sauce is red?
You're the expert. I'm not going to argue with you.
Oh, no, I
You
was
know?
okay.
And
All
you-
right.
And you
boo.
paid my tuition to Seton Hall. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Now, how did you?
So listen, I grew up in a sauce family. We were sauce people.
Okay.
We weren't gravy people, and that's okay. I like gravy people. Many of them are my friends. They're not bad people. The gravy people.
The gravy people are
I don't
totally
mind.
fine.
They're great.
Yeah.
The thing is
They're a little off, but no. But
the thing that happened from an almost Italian teacher's point of view, what I think happened with this gravy situation was that, all right, let's get Guido back in the picture. Remember Guido who made chicken parm? So one day, Guido comes from Italy and he's, got this factory job and he's making money and he wants to invite Bob over for pasta on Sunday. And, he starts making putting the sauce together. I'm just going to call it sauce for right this second. That's it. And then we can change it back. And he's, doing the carrots, the onions, the salad. Then he's, putting the meats and whatever. And Bob's wife is like, what are you making, Guido? He's like, I make like a ragu. And he's like, what's a ragu? What's a ragu? A ragu is like a sugo. See? That's the thing. Our word in Italian for a sauce is sugo, and a sugo can be made out of anything, out of vegetables, out of meats. It really just means the drippings of things. And he's like, well, how do you make a sugo? He's like, well, you saute things and the juice will come out and it's a juicy, and then so you put meat in it, huh? With the tomato. And he's like, yeah, so then it's like a gravy. Yeah. And he's like, vabbè, gravy, you say gravy, it's okay, and then it just stayed here.
It's absolutely, and this is, and my grandmother would say gravy. She spoke no English, and she would say macaroni gravy, and this, but we called it at home sauce. But I think it was also part of the assimilation, where, as we call the American, they would have turkey for Thanksgiving, so we served a turkey, but then. Because it was American, because it was that, we still have the baked dishes or lasagna, but it was a gravy. It was like kind of like incorporating an American terminology into something. So yes.
Yeah, it's something that I feel like I personally think it's a translation thing.
Yeah.
And if it's a meat sauce and you want to call it gravy, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
I want you to be happy. But if it's like a sauce with no meat in it and you still want to call it gravy, I have feelings about it. I'm not gonna. I feel some type of way about that. But you do what you want to do.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do what we want to do. Sauce and gravy are equal. Okay. All right.
Have a party.
Yeah. All right. Who else? Yes.
So the story you told about the chiffon cake, I can relate to a frying pan in our family that's used for meatballs. And so my grandmother makes the best meatballs in the world, and you can watch her and you can write everything down and memorize everything, but unless you have her frying pan, there's no meatballs that taste like her meatballs.
That's probably seasoned and seen years of
Yeah.
stuff.
Right,
Yes.
right.
And agita and just there's magic.
Yeah.
Who gets that when she is it in a will? Is it gonna be?
We joke around, and it's in lock somewhere, whoever, because she's not alive anymore, and I don't know what the exact verbiage is, but yeah, there's a lot of people fighting over that frying pan.
I think you should do it quarterly, like one family, then one family, then one
But then it'll
family.
change because it's not her meatballs, right? So somebody's gonna put something in and they're not gonna taste the same way.
But you know what I tell people about that? I get so many emails about I can't recreate this cookie. I have the recipe, but it just something comes out different when I do it, and that's okay. It's not gonna taste like your Nonna's because
Right.
you're not her. But you know what's beautiful is that one day somebody's gonna say that about you.
True.
Your granddaughter's gonna say, I'll never get it like my grandmother.
Yeah.
And that's I think as Italian cooks, we put, our own spin on everything. Like my aunts can all make the same cookie, but it's like a thumbprint. I know whose cookie it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. We all have our own flavor to things.
Absolutely. Good. Who else? Yes.
Question about your, stepping away from food for a second, about your social media presence. Can you take us through how much work goes into that? I'm sure it's more grind than work, but I believe your target audience, any thoughts along that line?
Yeah, so the thing is, social media was always kind of like a secondary thing for me. I was always so focused on creating the content, but now sharing the content and disseminating the content is a huge part of the job, so to speak, the work that I do. And if you're not on that game, it's really going to be difficult for you to grow and to share whatever you're doing with anybody. So my two main platforms are Facebook and Instagram. I joined TikTok back in January, kicking and screaming because my publisher said I had to. I was like, I am 34 years old and I am not gonna sing and dance like a monkey, and this is not for me. And then I started doing it and it was hilarious, and I actually have a lot of fun doing it. I think that especially if you're a food influencer, you need to learn how to shoot and edit your own stuff, and you need to learn how, what times are the best times to post things. You need to be consistent. That's the number one friggin' thing you gotta be, is consistent with posting your content. So you can have all the content done in the world batched, which I do. I like to batch shoot a lot of stuff, and then figure out when the right time is. I'm not as good as a lot of people are. A lot of people have content calendars, and they're doing their Christmas stuff in Halloween. I am not that person. I'm late. I'm Italian. I'm late to everything. So I'm always it's hard to feel like you're keeping up with everybody, because there's so much competition out there. But the best thing I can say to do is just, never pay attention to what other people are doing. Number one, not too much attention. Keep your head down, work on your stuff, just make sure you're sharing it consistently. And if you have more specific questions, I will answer them.
All right, who else? Yes, and then we'll go to you after.
I wasn't supposed to be here. It was my wife. She was like, just get the book signed and it's going to be a gift. And so I'm learning everything here, which is great. This has been great. My question is, how did you find the 30 Nonnas? And did any not make the cut?
Oh, that was easy. By the time we had the books out, we had already had the show out for quite some time. So we had a running list of the VIP Nonnas that if I didn't call them and ask them to be in the book, they were going to put the malocchio on me. So that was already a long list. And then I think for these kinds of things, I get that question a lot, but the women find me. I believe that things are meant to be, and the right people eventually come together on projects. So there were times, especially for the first two books, where I was trying to fill gaps in terms of, is the book diverse enough regionally? Do I have too many Sicilian Nonna? There's always a lot of Sicilian Nonnas, willing. But it's I was really trying to find a couple Nonnas from the north, because I wanted to make sure there was something for everybody, and there was decent representation. It was definitely going to be a heavy southern book, but I wanted to throw a couple of the northern ladies in there. So I did, for a few of them, I did casting calls, or I did notices on Facebook, or I asked ladies to call their friends and ask, and that's the way that we found a few of the stragglers. But they kind of find you in that sense. And I've always been so lucky to have such wonderful ladies want to really participate in Cooking with Nonna, whether that was the books or the videos. So I'm just lucky, I guess.
Right. Good. Yes.
I'm a fellow Brooklynite, and
Hello.
I grew up in an Italian American neighborhood, but I am not Italian. essentially Jewish of Eastern European, and I could replicate that entire experience in my background and culture. But what I didn't realize that there were specific Italian American dishes. And it wasn't until I went to Italy several times where I was like, well, where's this? And where's the food that I know? So I'm just curious, what would you describe are uniquely Italian American dishes that people in Italy would like, that's not Italian food?
Any parm besides eggplant.
Really?
Yes. All the other parms don't
Uh-huh.
exist there. They're wonderful, but they don't have them over there.
Right.
Vodka sauce,
Yep.
and who doesn't love a vodka sauce? I mean,
Yep.
what's not to
Yep.
love? Dishes, really cool dishes like chicken Vesuvio is a Chicago Italian American thing.
Uh-huh.
Spaghetti and meatballs would never be served together in Italy. On the same plate.
Rainbow cookies, yes.
I love the rainbow
They
cookies.
don't have rainbow cookies
No,
over there.
I love the rainbow
Who doesn't
cookies.
love a rainbow
I know,
cookie?
exactly.
Rainbow
Are
cookies.
all the recipes in the book uniquely Italian American?
Most of them are, yeah. Orecchietta with broccoli rabe and sausage.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do. It's only orecchietta with broccoli rabe. And if you think about it, I mean that's one of the biggest dishes from the region I'm from. And you would see it with like orecchietta, broccoli rabe, and shrimp maybe because it's a coastal.
Yep.
Puglia's on the coast,
Yep.
the Adriatic coast. And it wouldn't make sense for there to be sausage, but we came to America and we could afford sausage, so we're gonna put sausage in it, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
Lots
There's
of.
so many. I mean, just going through your cookbook, almost everything there is Italian American, and I feel it's its own cuisine. It's its own region. It's just as valid as. I mean, it wasn't until the 1970s when my family in Calabria would even eat a pesto genovese. They just wouldn't do it. I mean,
Yeah. Why?
it didn't transfer.
That's
Right,
not ours.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's not ours. And so, and polenta. I mean, polenta is definitely from the north. No one in the south would eat. We didn't have the fields to raise pig, or
Sure.
like some, or at least that many. But still, we wouldn't eat polenta.
But you come to the United States and you start working and meeting other Italian Americans, and and it's a beautiful thing because the traditions start to blend, and the food starts to blend, and you have this wonderful blend of all the flavors of Italy, and I think it only makes it more robust, not watered down,
Absolutely. Good question. Thank you. Yeah. All right.
I stand for boots.
Yes, ma'am.
I stand for boots.
Yeah, the long one.
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
know what that is. What's that?
What-
It's like a bat.
Yeah,
You know?
that's a very Sicilian thing. That's
Yeah.
a hardcore Sicilian.
That's really-
Yes.
Gotta ask, does Nonna have a favorite to cook or a favorite to eat?
She loves the orecchietta with broccoli rabe
Great.
because we make the orecchietta together most of the time. So it's really one of the recipes that makes me the happiest because there's a magic in handcrafting fresh pasta, and that's one of the first things that she really taught me how to make. I think when you're learning how to cook, you really have to start at the basics of everything. So being good at pasta took me a while, and I would mix it up and decide it looked messy and throw it all out when she wasn't looking, because otherwise she would have murdered me.
Right.
But I didn't give up. And when I would feel down and be like, oh, I can't do this, as well, you pause and remember, well, she does have about 70 years more practice than I do. But she was in Nonna's family growing up, and you can read all about this because her entire life story is in this cookbook. She was the oldest of 7 children. Her mother was widowed pretty young and ran a bottega, which is ironic that I have Bottega della Nonna now, my e-commerce website. And it was her job to cook for everyone. She left school in 3rd grade and she stayed home and cooked for everyone. Her younger sister Rosa stayed home and cleaned for everyone. So they all had jobs, and Nonna was the resident pastaya at home.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good. Yes.
My aunt, now passed from Bari, would call broccoli rapini.
Yeah, they it's okay. In Chicago, they call it rapini as well. In Canada, in like Toronto, they
Yep.
say rapini.
Right.
Integrated to Buffalo.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's I like the word rapini.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but in Brooklyn it's broccoli Rob, you know.
Right.
and
Right.
That's how we know.
So, all right. I think we're probably going to move on to the signing now. First of all, I want to say
Alright.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to also say that my associate Christina, her grandmother, and her mother right here
Oh,
prepared food for us. So please help yourself. Thank you so much. And I do want to say a little bit, the Coccia Institute for the Italian Experience in America is exactly this. We foster conversations, events, and we do 5 every semester. We're associated with Montclair State University. We have something out here, a plaque, so if you want to follow us on social media, please. If we could also take your email address to put you on our newsletter. We would love to have you join this. And really it is to preserve and to explore the culture of Italians of American descent and other immigrants as well. So anyway.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Rossella.
Thank you.
We will set up a little